Shalom, 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 shalom. It's your boy Joe, J to the O, aka Wriggle. BK, Yahusuf, the closest one to the sun, trying to be the closest thing to the hardest working human being. Also, the closest thing to the perfect human being, who is Jesus the Christ, Yeshua HaMashiach. And if Joe not, let Joe think what Joe think. It's Joe mind and Joe gonna use it. Hallelujah. Shout out to the TOP gang. Bless Yahweh in the name of Yahshua. Bless you in the name of Yahshua for watching this video. In the name of Jesus, in the name of Yahshua. And I hope this video finds you well. So I'm just going to do a quick, I don't think anybody really even care about my opinion on this, but I did a couple of videos earlier where I kind of got sidetracked on my opinions about the election, or the selection, really, or the presidential debate last night. Or, yeah, because today is September 11, 2024. There was a presidential debate last night between President Trump and Vice President Kamala Harris. And truthfully, my opinion about it, if anybody cares, is why do black people, quote unquote black people or Hebrews, get so involved in identity politics when Kamala ain't even black? She's Indian. She's came out and said plenty of times that she's Indian. And then if you go, and now all of a sudden she's black. Just like when Biden said, you're not black. If you don't vote for Joe Biden, you're not black. And I think the Most High that I'm not black, right? Or I don't consider myself to be black. I consider myself to be a Hebrew and an Israelite, right? Just because somebody's a Hebrew don't make them an Israelite. And just because somebody's an Israelite don't make them a Hebrew. A Hebrew is my lineage, right? The seed that I come through. I come through the seed of Shem, right? So that's my bloodline. I also come through a couple of other bloodlines, but for the sake of this video, that's my bloodline. To be an Israelite that's my nationality. That's what laws, statutes, and commandments that I keep. I keep the laws, statutes, and commandments of the Israelites found in the Torah, right? Just like people who watch the presidential debate mostly consider themselves to be Americans because they keep the laws, the statutes, and the commandments of America, and they worship the God of America, which is the God of this earth, which is Uncle Sam, which is basically a nod to the Baphomet. Basically it all goes back to Nimrod worship, but we're not gonna get into all that. What I'm gonna say is that black people, or quote unquote black people, are too easily manipulated by what they call identity politics, meaning just because somebody looks like you think that they're going to have your best interest when they get into office, when these people are initiated witches. Just like on the same token, quote unquote black people think that if a certain celebrity comes out and starts speaking wisdom, or what's perceived to be wisdom, or if a so-called celebrity comes out and influences you, because what celebrities are basically influencers. They influence you to maybe pick one brand over the other brand, or more recently, celebrities were used to influence the drinking of promethazine, right? What they call syrup, codeine and promethazine, where a lot of people, and it's documented, a lot of the newer rap artists, they say, oh yeah, I was heavily influenced by Future and other artists to drink syrup. Back when I was more impressionable, it was Pimp C who would always talk about drinking syrup and things of that nature. But I never really got into drinking syrup because I was never really easily influenced. I was more someone who used self-autonomy. But just because someone who looks like you comes out and promotes a product or promotes a way of life or ideology does not make it correct, because if you're dealing with underground rap artists, you'll get a bit more of the truth than dealing with an artist who is signed to one of the record labels who are owned by the Ashkenazi fake Jews, because they have an agenda. They have an agenda to fill up their private prisons. They have an agenda to keep their courts filled with defendants. They got to keep the judges paid. They got to keep the prosecutors paid. They got to keep the lawyers paid. It's a whole industry. And the product is you, black man, black woman, quote unquote, black man, black woman. The product is you. So you have to think on a higher level than, she looks like me, or Barack Obama looks like me, so I'm going to rock with them, because that's just another ploy to get you to go in the way that they would have you to go. And my apologies for the irritations, but if you can bear with me, we'll make it through, because I'm trying to drop a little wisdom, and if you care about it. So the presidential debate. All right. So for me, the Republicans and the Democrats are the two wings of the same bird, right? They're in cahoots with one another. The Hegelian dialect, right? You have black, you have white, two extremes, and then you come together and make gray. So what they're trying to do is they're trying to create a gray area. What they're trying to do is, they got, so Trump, and if I was a voting man and I believed in this system, I would vote for Trump. For one, I'm not voting for a woman to run, to be a leader, because you're just asking for trouble. For two, because I've never been someone who agreed with the liberals. I don't agree with abortion. I don't agree with, the whole concept of LGBT, ABC plus, and all that. I don't agree with that. That is not biblical. That's a lot of that are abominations, right? Also, the KKK were Democrats. Democrats have been against the quote unquote black man the whole time. It was the Republicans who really fought to end slavery and things of that nature. So you just have to do your own research. But again, I believe that presidents are selected, not elected, and they come from one of the bloodlines, right? The book of Revelation talks about 10 kings. The Psalms 83 talks about 10 kingdoms that's against the Israelites. I believe that these kings and kingdoms, or the kings from these kingdoms, descend from demonic bloodlines, from the angels who came down to have sex with women and to corrupt the whole earth, right? And that's why even with the kingdom of Israel, to be the king, you must descend from a bloodline. But that didn't start with Israel, because Yah is the king. Yahshua is the king of kings. Yahweh is the creator of all. But Yahshua has been given all authority on this earth. It's you have to be a part of the Davidic bloodline, right? But that didn't start with the Israelites. That started with the nations, because the nations put kings over their kingdoms, and my guess would be that they were endowed by a particular demonic spirit. Whatever demonic spirit reigned over that nation, that demonic spirit embodied himself in a man, and that man became the king, and that lineage became the lineage of the king, the kingship. So you had to be born into that line to even be considered to be the king of that nation. And that's basically how they got down. But the king would be a very glorious person because he was endowed by a demonic spirit, and he would go in and go out before their nation, and that nation would see an immediate glory from their mighty one or their God through their king. And the Israelites have a problem with waiting, so they wanted to have a king over their nation just like the other nations. And that's why, and this is just my guess from deductive reasoning and using deductive logic, is that they wanted to be like the other nations, but they haven't considered that the other nations have kings who were put in that spot by the demon or the principality that ruled over that nation. And that's not how Yah designed his nation. But since y'all want a king, I'll give y'all a king, and I will give glory to that king, right? But this is what you asked for. Remember, when it's all said and done, this is what you asked for, right? As a nation, right? So, I say all that to say this, that the president of the United States is no different. If you do independent research, you'll start to realize that all the American presidents all come from a particular bloodline, right? Trump included, Barack Obama included. Anybody who is put as president over this nation descends from a particular bloodline. So right there you have your evidence that presidents are not elected, they're selected. And really, popular votes don't really mean anything. They get allegedly they get elected through the electoral votes, and supposedly your popular vote can lead to more electoral votes or whatever, right? But it's not like they just count all the votes and your vote counts, because your vote really don't count. I'm just telling you the truth. If you do your own research, right? And especially the way they hold elections, the way they held the election last time, to me, I'm just gonna say it's all theater. You know, Trump getting shot and pumping his fist in the air, to me, it seems a little bit like theater. I'm just gonna go ahead and say I believe this is all just one big distraction to keep you busy looking at things that don't really matter. Because the presidential, especially if you consider yourself to be a Hebrew Israelite or even a black person, the presidential election is not going to help you one way or another. But things like Trump putting abortion in the state's hands, where they can now vote on whether they want to proceed with abortions and things of that nature, that's a bit more in the direction of righteousness versus just being able to have abortions willy-nilly and having abortions after the fetus or after the child has been born, right? Now, Kamala that was like almost her main point that she kept bringing out. Well, I care about the young women, and when I was in high school, my best friend was sexually assaulted. And look, I understand she's going to draw on your heartstrings. She's going to try to make you feel some type of way, especially if you're a woman, right? And that's all fine and good. If we really wanted to protect women, then we would protect our women. We wouldn't send them out into public schools without some type of protection. We wouldn't send them out to the bus stop. We wouldn't have them walking down the street to the bus stop as little girls where some van can pull up and snatch them, right? We wouldn't have them in high risk situations, right? And it's only going to continue to get worse because women can be used as bartering tools. When the economy collapses and there is no more fiat currency, there are no more Federal Reserve notes, or they're basically worthless, right? You could basically get, when shit hits the fan, right? When there's a world without rule of law, women can be traded as commodities, right? It just is what it is, bro. Like this is in the Torah, bro. Like there's servants in the Torah. I'm not saying that going around snatching girls is righteous. It's not. It's very wicked, But at the same time, to sit here and sound and think and be appalled at reality only puts you in a bad situation, because when these things come upon the earth, and they will, and they're already here, young women get snatched all the time. Okay, young boys too, but people, older women get snatched all the time, never to be found again, right? And they get killed all the time or sexually assaulted all the time, because we put our women in high risk situations and allow them to just do whatever they want, because they're independent, they're strong and independent, supposedly. But they put themselves in situations where they're easily taken advantage of, right? So that's what we would do if we really want to protect our daughters, not wait till they get so-called sexually assaulted and then have to give them abortions. And most women, abortions ain't for women that get sexually assaulted. Abortions is for women don't care about children anymore. To them, it just doesn't matter. To them, they proudly and happily sacrifice their children for this government, for this for Babylon, right? Although they may not know that's what they're doing, they do it without regard. And the thing is, they still have so many options of contraceptive. They still have Plan B, which is basically abortion. And I'm gonna tell you like this: there's a judgment for abortion, right? So anyway, let me wrap that stream of consciousness up. I'll just say this: at least Trump is trying to push more towards righteousness, whereas Kamala, she's only a puppet for the liberal agenda, which is, I mean, now that they've got homosexuality, the next thing is they want to start being able to freely have sex with children, right? Because that goes back to Rome, you know, like the Mona Lisa painting. The Mona Lisa painting is a man in drag, and that man is Leonardo da Vinci's young boy lover, because the Romans wouldn't just be homosexuals, they would take young boys as lovers, you know, or I guess I don't even want to say the word concubine, but they would take young boys as lovers. That's what Romans did, and that's what they still desire to do today. They're just slowly bringing it in to not shock the American public. But the American public is either going to go along with whatever the liberal agenda is, which is the satanic agenda, the demonic agenda, or they can try to stay within the confines of trying to at least look righteous with the Republican side. But the thing about the Republicans is that most of them will not accept a black Messiah, although the Messiah is black, or what they would call black, or although the ancient Hebrews and the ancient Israelites are what they would call black, so they have a lot of error on their side too. But like I said, really it's all theater, because Trump, during his first presidential run, he had a guy named Jared Kushner in his cabinet who was married to his daughter, and he's one of the Revelation 2:9 and 3:9 false Jews, Ashkenazis, who basically was there to just keep an eye on him, right? Because there are forces at work, right, that are above a lot of people's intellect. They don't comprehend what's actually going on. They think that what you see is what you get, right? You're not supposed to judge by the appearance. You're supposed to make a righteous judgment. They think that it's a meritocracy, where if you're the best guy for the job, you're gonna get the job. That is not what happens. That's not even what happens at your job, right? You know that you have to be in with certain, if you're not in with a certain clique, if you don't appease certain entities at your job, whether that be your boss, HR, whoever, that you probably be put out, even though you might be skilled with your hands, even though you might be the best candidate for the job. It really doesn't matter. It's not a meritocracy. You have to play the part, right? And that's why a lot of people right now may be without work. But it's going to get even deeper, because it's going to get to the point where you have to take a mark of the beast to even be able to buy or sell, right? So that's the direction we're heading, and we're already there. If you say something that they don't like, they'll cancel you. Like Candace Owens called some clown named Shmuley. He was saying all this and that, but she said, "Look, you're Revelation 3:9. You say you are a Jew, but you are not. You are a liar. You are of the synagogue of Satan," right? He couldn't really come back. He couldn't say, because it was the truth. And then, like, the next day, they gave Candace Owens 3 strikes in one video. And it wasn't the video with Shmuley, because that wasn't even on her channel. It was on some old video she did with Kanye, where she didn't even say anything. Ye didn't even really say anything. They were just saying we could be Jews. That's all they were saying, right? We could, and they're right, because they definitely could be a part of the true ancient lineage of the Hebrews and the Israelites, right? But it doesn't work that way, because the synagogue of Satan controls the media, right? So if you say something that they don't like, they can cancel you quickly, right? Although they can say whatever it is they want to say. But if you say anything against them is anti-Semite, but they're not even from the lineage of Shem, and their own books say that, right? So let me wrap this up, because it's getting long. The presidential debate, for me, is just a dog and pony show. It's just, truthfully, I think we're going to go to war. Well, it's a great chance that war pops off before the election, right? Or even before maybe we have the election, but whoever is the president elect, before they can even get inaugurated, quote unquote inaugurated, war may pop off. And if war pops off, then Joe Biden ain't got to come out of office, right? Because he's gonna be the wartime president, and there's gonna be all kind of bills enacted and all kind of things enacted that he ain't got to come out of office anyway, right? But it's not Joe Biden per se who made the gas price go up this and that, or Trump who made him come down this and that. It's really just, though there are people who are pulling the strings above the so-called president, and they're just a figurehead for this company called the United States, right? Because companies have presidents, right? So anyway, that's basically my take on it. That's why I don't really pay much attention to politics. I mean, it does matter on a more local grassroots level, because you could get certain laws changed in your local areas. So I do believe in local elections, your vote may count. Your vote does count more than on a national election. But at the same time, really, when you get up to the upper echelon, if you do your research on Washington, D.C., it's built on paganism. Okay? George Washington, the first president, first they wanted to make George Washington king. They wanted to make George Washington king, right? But he said, no, I'm not going to be the king. Anyway, if you go to the Capitol building or whatever, you look at they got something called the Rotunda or something like that, where it's this round room, and I guess they got all these pagan gods in it or whatever. You look at the roof, they got George Washington in the clouds floating with all these other pagan gods, and they trying to make them seem godlike. And I mean, who's going to be coming in the clouds, right? Yahshua. See, it's all about trying to steal the bloodline promise. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this video up with saying this. You can care about the election all you want, but what you should be caring about is your soul salvation. And your soul salvation ain't going to come through Trump, and ain't going to come through the Republicans or the Democrats. It's going to come through you keeping the law, statutes, and commandments of the Most High Yah, knowing that you are saved through the blood of Yahshua HaMashiach, or Jesus Christ, and receiving the Holy Spirit as a down payment, if you will, as to having interest into the kingdom. Anyway, I'm your boy Joe, and I pray you have a blessed one. Shalom.